Today we're diving into a really powerful teaching from Daniel Lamptey about something that can literally shape our entire lives: offense. We're going to explore this idea that holding a grudge, well, it builds an invisible prison all around us, and we're going to figure out what it takes to find the key.
So let's just start right here. Lamptey kicks things off with this incredible metaphor. Think about that for a second. He's not talking about a real place with bars and guards. He's talking about a prison of the mind, one we don't even realize we're in because, well, we built it ourselves, brick by brick, with our own bitterness.
And that, of course, leads to the big question, right? If we're stuck in a prison that we've built ourselves, who on earth is the jailer holding the key? The answer? Well, it might not be what you think.
To get to the bottom of this, Daniel Lamptey takes us way back, deep into an ancient story. He uses the life of a woman named Rachel as this just powerful case study on the devastating long-term consequences of unforgiveness.
So where did this all start for Rachel? Well, it was a betrayal of the highest order. She was in love, promised to a man named Jacob, but on her wedding night, her own father pulled a bait and switch, swapping her out for her older sister Leah. I mean, can you imagine a deception that deep?
Now, this is the part that Daniel Lamptey really wants us to zoom in on. He points out that the real problem, the core of the tragedy, wasn't just what happened to her. It was the choice she made after. She chose to hold on to that bitterness, that anger, and she never, ever let it go. Lamptey explains that this unforgiveness wasn't just, a passive feeling like being sad or mad. No, it became an active toxin inside her. It literally corrupted the soil of her heart, making it totally impossible for anything good or healthy to grow there.
So what happens when your own spirit is poisoned? As Lamptey breaks it down for us, this internal state, it wasn't long before it started showing up in Rachel's external life, and the results were absolutely devastating.
Lamptey has this perfect term for what happened next: arrested development. And it's exactly what it sounds like. He argues that holding on to an offense literally stops our spiritual growth in its tracks. We become like a statue, totally stuck, unable to move forward because we just refuse to let go of the past. And this is it. This is where we see the answer to our question: who was the jailer? It was her. Rachel became her own worst enemy. In her frantic desperation to have children, something that came so easily to her sister, she turned to all these chaotic schemes instead of just healing her own heart. She was the single biggest obstacle to her own peace. This heartbreaking cry to her husband, it just shows you exactly where her head was at. Her whole world, her entire focus, was consumed by what she didn't have. Her identity was completely wrapped up in her pain and her rivalry with her sister. And it was a direct result of that poisoned spirit.
But here's the thing about a poison like this. It never stays contained, does it? It always leaks out, it spreads. Let's take a look at how Rachel's personal, self-made prison ended up trapping her entire family. Lamptey lays it out for us like a tragic set of dominoes just waiting to fall. It all started with her personal bitterness. That bitterness created this intense, toxic rivalry with her sister. That rivalry then created these deep, painful divisions among their children, and ultimately, that pain just spilled right over into the next generation. Just think about that for a second. A family that was supposed to be unified was now what Lamptey calls a dysfunctional mess. The kids were literally ranked. Joseph, Rachel's beloved son, he was treated like a little prince. Leah's kids, they were second class. And the children from the other wives, they were at the very bottom. And this is where you see that poison infecting the next generation. Reuben, who was Leah's son, he grows up watching his mom get disrespected and feel unloved. He soaks up all that bitterness and eventually acts out in this shocking way, committing a terrible sin against his own father, all to defend his mother's honor. The dysfunction had become hereditary. So this long-held bitterness, this absolute refusal to let anything go, it eventually drives Rachel to one last act of theft and revenge. An act that would unknowingly, tragically, seal her own fate. When it was finally time for the family to leave her father's land, Rachel decides she needs to inflict one final wound. So she steals his most prized possession, a sacred idol. And get this, she didn't want it to worship it. She just wanted it so he couldn't use it to find them and to cause him pain. Pure and simple. And this is the moment it all goes wrong. Her father catches up,
He's furious. He accuses the whole camp of theft. Her husband, Jacob, he's completely outraged by the accusation. He has no idea his wife is guilty. And so he makes this fateful declaration, unknowingly pronouncing a death sentence on the one woman he loves most in the world.
Rachel was clever. She hid the idol, she lied to her father, and she got away with it in the moment. But as Lamptey argues, she couldn't escape the power of those words Jacob had spoken. Not long after, while giving birth to her second son, she died. A direct consequence, he says, of the curse that her own bitterness brought right to her doorstep.
And this slide, this just shows the final, heartbreaking price of her unforgiveness: ultimate separation. The whole family, including her rival Leah and their husband Jacob, they were all buried together in the honored family tomb. But Rachel, she was buried all alone on the side of the road. Her bitterness isolated her completely, even in death.
So after this incredibly tragic story, what's the big takeaway? What can we possibly learn from Rachel's self-made prison? Well, Daniel Lamptey offers a very clear, very direct path forward.
Lamptey gives us this really simple analogy. Look, offenses are gonna come. People are gonna hurt us. That's life. He says we should treat that experience like food. You process it, you take the nutrients, the lessons learned, and then you flush out the rest, the waste. Because if you hold on to the waste, it just becomes toxic.
And the stakes here, they're just incredibly high. Holding on to offense stops our growth cold. It poisons our relationships. It creates that very prison we lock ourselves into. And Lamptey's final point is the most important one. Letting go isn't about saying what the other person did was okay. It's not for them. It's for you. It is an act of self-liberation.
And that is the final provocative thought Lamptey leaves us with. It kind of forces us to turn the mirror on ourselves, doesn't it? What offenses are we holding on to? What walls have we built around our own hearts? And, most importantly, are we ready to use the key of forgiveness and simply walk out?
And he ends with this simple, powerful, forward-looking challenge. A resolution, really, to choose freedom over bitterness, to choose progress over being stuck, and to choose peace over the prison of offense.